This episode is sponsored by Wilkes Consulting, a locally owned firm with expertise in government relations and liquor license consulting. No one knows Northeast PA like our experts who were born and raised here. Because we are local, we provide a personal and professional relationship you won't find anywhere else. If you want to keep up with the latest COVID restrictions at your bar or restaurant or get in front of a state representative, then give us a call. We guarantee we will get you a fast and accurate answer. Call or text us today at 570-606-9206. That's 570-606-9206. Hi, I'm Bill Corcoran Jr., and I'm your host for the On the Stacks podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Todd Carmichael, co-founder and CEO of La Colombe Coffee Roasters.
What's up, podcast episode 32? Welcome to the On the Stacks podcast. Todd, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So we're doing a virtual podcast today. Where are you at right now?
Oh, I'm in Gladwin, PA, just outside of Philly. You know that.
Yeah. So let's tell me a little bit about your background. You're not from Philly, right? You are from the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, geez, how much time do we have? No, let's see. I was born and raised in a place called just north of Spokane, Washington. It's farm country. We grow fruits, right? So I grew up in agriculture. Made my way to Seattle to pursue my future and get a degree, which was kind of a first thing in our family. And I was able to do that because I was an All-American distance runner. I like to run far and fast. I mean, that was my gig. And when I got to Seattle, I discovered this little seed, man. And that little seed was called coffee. You know, there wasn't really much of it. It was like 1982. But there was this little company called Starbucks. They had like 2 or 3 cafes. And then there was maybe another brand around called Pete's. I can't remember. And when I found it, I thought, this is it. I get it. I think, I'm from Scottish stock, and we believe in, this thing that you have a trajectory, you have a path. It's up to you to find it, and that you have a calling. And when I found that seed and I was dragging those first bags, I thought, this is my calling.
So did you got started at working at Starbucks? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. Well, so I wasn't really qualified for anything. To give you a perfect thing, I'm a foster kid, so I'd never traveled. I'd never eaten in a restaurant. I really wasn't qualified to do anything other than lift heavy shit. That's all I had down, right? Just like, you move that there. And I had that down. And so I couldn't find a job anywhere else. And I landed just haphazardly in front of a warehouse with these bay doors. And I saw these guys about my age dragging grain sacks. And so I, like a farm kid, I said, you got any work? And the guy said, nope. So I did what every farm kid does. You come back the next day and you keep doing that until one day the guy says yes. All right. So it took me maybe 2 weeks. I just stand outside. They could see me out there, just waiting. That's all you do, right?
And how old were you?
What's that?
How old were you then?
I was 18. Yeah. And so one day some guy didn't show up. So it was my gig. That was it. And
you got your opportunity.
I started dragging, we call it humping sacks. So I humped sacks and then I made my way, and I could weld like a beast. So I, would start spot welding, and then I ended up on machinery, and I wanted to be in service. I wanted to be a barista, and they wouldn't let me do it. Because you probably should see what I looked like at the time. There's this whole grunge movement. That's not a movement. That's just farm boys, man. That's just, so, I was wearing my boots and my shorts cut off and my stupid shirt and, my long hair. And that's just who we were. So they said, no, they wouldn't let me behind the bar. And so I found another company that just started called Espresso Roma. Let me do that. And it was a grunge cafe, man. Fucking coolest 3 years of my life. I was just like, that was just making coffee and listening to music and being around this scene,
Yeah. So what did you did that for 3 years, and then what?
Well, then I graduated the University of Washington and became a tax lawyer.
Okay.
Tax consultant rather. So I got what's called an MPAC. So a business degree with accounting, concentration and tax law on top of it. And I did that for a huge firm for about a year and a half, and I don't mind the work. I don't mind the work at all. I never mind any work. I just didn't like seeing the end of my life, and I missed coffee. So I left.
And what did you just quit on a whim? And
it took about a week. Yeah, they escorted me out of the building with my stuff. Because when you work in tax, when you work in tax, man, when you say you're not coming back, man, you sign NDAs and they want you out of the building. It's like, oh my. And so 3 days later, I flew to Africa because that just seemed like the thing to do.
What did you do there?
I was looking for coffee farms. I was hunting down where my entry point was going to be. I needed to completely understand the industry from the farm all the way through. And, I had some novel ideas that turned out to be true. I just, this whole thing about farm to table or sourcing. And for me, it was like, no, man, I know one thing. Bill, you come to my farm and you're looking for some fruit. You took your time to drive your truck all the way up to my place. You're getting the good stuff. Okay, that's just it. That's how it works. It just works that way, right? It's just very basic farm thinking. And so I thought, you want to be the best coffee in America, you start at the farm.
So that was your goal.
This was one major component of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And why so? Like what is your what was the passion? What was behind that?
Well, I don't know if it's passion. A lot of people say that. I think that there's a healthy obsession. And I think obsession is raised out of interest. And interest begins with just getting up and going out and looking at the world. So there's this chain that I was starting to drive on. Like, let's move, let's look, let's find interest, and let's focus on that interest so it becomes an obsession. And let's turn that obsession into something bigger than you. And that's what I did.
So you became obsessed with coffee and the service industry. And how did the idea of La Colombe come about? How did it get started?
Well, I guess it started, I met my best friend. He was roasting for another company, Jean-Philippe Berti. We still share an office together. He was, he's classic French overdressed guy with the just everything, the shiny shoes meets me, who still had like dirt under his nails.
Mr. Grunge.
Yeah. And we both loved the same things, and that was food. But you got to remember, coffee was nothing in America and food was nothing. You couldn't find anyone interested in either of those things. No one cared. Whatever. Like, the best meal you can ever have was a T-bone and a baked potato, which is great. I don't want to throw anything out because, man, my grill's heating up right now, and I plan on putting meat on it. So don't get me wrong. But that was all there was, right? And coffee was just the best you can get was Folgers, and no one was interested in those feelings and emotions and the tastes that all these things give you. Then I met my best friend, and he cared. And the first question he ever asked me is, I said, "Are you that?" I got his name wrong. And then he goes, "You got a gas stove?" And I go, "Baby, I got a Royal 54 because this has the best." He goes, "That's the 6-burner flame." And I'm like, "Yes, right." And he goes, "Can I cook on it?" And like, we've met 3 minutes ago, right? And these are 19-year-old people, right? 19, 20. Like, we shouldn't. And I realized I found a guy like me. And I said, you can use it anytime you want as long as you cook for two, right? So that was like, man, I'm 19, 20. You want to throw, and he used to buy, oh God, he used to get shit. I don't know where he got it. Like, he would just, we were going to do like, what's this, zucchini flowers, right? Like, where do you get zucchini flowers? Show up like 3 dozen zucchini flowers. It's like, oh my God. And so, because there's always just the culinary connection between food and coffee and wines and these things. And it started there. It started eating with him. He used to cook on Fridays and Saturday nights at my place. And we'd drink wine, we'd drink whiskey mostly. That's what I was drinking. And play cards and just talk about what a perfect coffee roasting company looked like. And we then turned it in years later into La Colombe.
So what was the first step? Like, what did you guys do?
Well, you can't always follow the steps of people like JP and I because the world has changed so much. Mm-hmm. I mean, we didn't have VC. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have emails and websites, and we didn't have access When we wanted to buy a roaster, we flew to France, borrowed his dad's car, and drove all the way through Italy looking for one.
Wow.
And we found one, and then we strapped it to a couple pallets, and we literally shipped the shit. And then we needed machinery. We went to the factory, and I remember I actually negotiated paying less if they didn't put it in a box. Right? I mean, this is how cheap we were. So the world doesn't work like that anymore. Like it was just grip it and rip it. I do believe, if you're starting a company to embrace the concept of poverty. I think poverty is your partner. That you don't use up any of the oxygen that your company needs. And then if you do have a source of income coming from yourself, you give it to the baby first. I rented a tiny studio apartment the size of, let's say, a garage, like a one-car garage, and right across the street from the projects at the time.
And where was this?
And this was in 1993 on 13th and Lombard, man.
Okay.
And so I paid right around $100 a month rent, right? I had a little mini fridge and I had a single hot plate. I could live off $350 a month. The rest of it was just the companies. I had it down. I didn't have a car. I didn't have life insurance, health insurance, nothing. I just I'm going to be poor for 3 to 4 years. I would drink like terrible things, like terrible beers, like a night out would be like a single 40, it's like, and that's how we did it. You feed the child before you feed the parent.
Yeah. So then what was kind of the turning point? And, for those that are listening, I mean, you guys are, a very large company now. And I kind of want to just, for people that are listening that may not, really know a lot about you without doing a quick Google search, but just to put things in perspective, I mean, you guys have gone from that to what?
Yeah. Okay. The day we opened the first cafe and I got the greatest lease in the world, and it was 93. There was I had to move the crack people from the start. I had $400 in the bank account, and today we're worth $1.2 billion.
Wow.
Growing at about.
Say that again.
I started with $300 or $400 in the bank account when we opened, and now we're worth $1.2 billion.
With a B.
With the B. Yeah. And
that's perspective.
It takes some time, that stuff doesn't explode. I think that there's this thing that goes on in Silicon Valley where their valuations go huge, or that everyone thinks that's the normal world. No, that's life in a supernova. Here on planet Earth, if you really want to create value, you stick around and you keep working it. You work your nut into something amazing, right? So for me, it's 26 years, 26.2, which is exactly the distance of a marathon. So I guess I got to go for a double. Because it's the old school way, and you just keep turning it and churning it and evolving it and moving it forward. And after a while, you get somewhere. I think that loads of people are looking for the two of the most ridiculous things. They're looking for the world to offer them passion, which is silly. And number two, they're looking for overnight success. Well, neither of them truly exist. Passion is like epiphany. It lasts for maybe a minute or two, and it doesn't happen very often. If you think you're going to walk all the way across Antarctica, you're going to start your own company, you're going to climb Mount Everest based on passion, you're silly, because it's a fleeting human emotion. And nothing is as unreliable as a human emotion, right? They shift like the wind. Go for obsession. And secondarily, there's no such thing as an overnight success. You succeed over your life. Over your life. So take your skills, take your entrepreneurial mindset and put it to work. Don't freak out if next year you're not worth $50 billion. That's silly. This is a path. It's a voyage. It's a journey. And it's an amazing journey that you're on. And it's just, quit looking for freaking passion and quit looking for the big boom.
Yeah.
As soon as you jettison those two falsehoods, you really start finding some traction. You can get somewhere.
Yeah. So, I'm sure your role, at the company, and I'm sure you've done a lot of different things over the years, but, being the CEO of the company, what do you do day to day? Like, what's a typical day look like for Todd?
Oh, if it's not COVID, right?
Yeah. If it's not COVID, pre-COVID.
I think your days should mirror your priorities. And what you find the single most important aspects of your job. overall strategy is going to be a big one. So you have to you have to be collecting information constantly because you're living in a freaking bubble, man. And you got to have your ways of like have that flow come back in. The two single most important things for me after that are innovation, right? And culture. And culture and brand, right? Because they're connected. So I spend a lot of time in R&D. I mean, no one reports into me in R&D because I run the R&D department, literally run it, like day to day.
I think I've seen some photos on Instagram.
Yeah, you got to be there because that's where the future is. And then you have to spend time in your marketing, your culture areas, right? To make sure that people are delivering the message that you want, right? And that, this is your one opportunity in life to influence those around you, and that you make sure that you use that wisely and that you're connected to it. Some CEOs kind of back off that job. And then the rest of the time, you run like a bat out of hell. That's pretty much how I describe it. I don't get, I see these guys. I'm not a golfer. I'm not your typical, I wasn't raised to be a CEO. Or groomed to be one, although you are self-grooming, that I can't see. They're so very calm. They're so very distant to how things are made in their company. I've had CEOs take me because, CEOs actually call each other all the time. I don't know if you know that. And then you go, you got to do a walkthrough with the guy. I mean, it's constant, right? And you can see CEOs they're looking at machinery. They have no idea what it does. They're walking through plants that no one's ever even seen them before. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. How do you do this? I mean, how do you make it? How do you manage, right? You have others that have no idea. They're so separate from their own brand. They have no idea what that speaker. They think, wow, that speaker is only just selling shit for us. No. That speaker is telling the world about the thousands of employees who work here. That speaker is broadcasting a message to the universe that perhaps is being picked up by UFOs and everyone else about who you are, that you're alive, that you exist, and this is the things that are important to us. How you cannot be connected to that? I don't understand, right? Yeah. So I think as a CEO, you really have to do that. And so ultimately that's my day to day. It's just trying to stay connected to the kids, and like in those areas.
Yeah. How about the name La Colombe? What is there a meaning behind it?
Yeah. So, okay, it's like every great word, it has many meanings to it, right? So I'll give you just one or two quickie, right? So south of France, in a place called Saint-Paul-de-Vence, there's a little cafe and a pétanque field, this little game that they play. And it was really important because every major impressionist painter went through there and painted the shit out of the place in the summer. Monet, Manet, Renoir, all of them had gone there, and they go to this cafe because they love the light and they paint it. Like the lily pond was painted there, right? So it's just super, super important. But right across the street, right, is this little bed and breakfast. And it's just right on the same, so the cafe gives the bed. There's no road. It's all you walk through. And the owner there loved these impressionist painting artists. So he would give them free room and board. And at the end of the summer, he would hand them, they would pay with paintings. And this is a bed and breakfast you go to. Is like going to the Louvre, man. It's like every beautiful work you've ever seen is just in this little bed and breakfast, because this man, he created food and they created art. And I just always found that's beautiful. And it's called La Colombe d'Or. And La Colombe means the dove. The dove comes in peace. The dove loves art. The dove loves food. The dove loves all, even if it's just a stupid little farm boy who didn't know his ass from the back room. The dove is that. The dove is promise. The dove is what Moses let go of to see if there was land, right? So you kind of go, hey, yeah, it's the dove. I mean, I might come off as a badass, but ultimately inside, I just want a little more peace for everybody, Yeah. All the La Colombe.
That's really cool. That's a really, really interesting story. And the logo is the dove.
Yes, the dove. Well, and it's a riff off Picasso's dove, which he painted there, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't get too close because I literally that logo, dude, was actually designed on the back of a napkin on an airplane.
Wow, who did it?
Me and JP on
on the way back.
Dude, the font is Times Roman, and then the dove is just two dudes on a plane.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Humble beginnings, right?
It's got some visibility now. That little thing.
Yeah, it sure does. So let's talk about this little can here, the draft latte. How did that all start?
Well, first it started with, I was in Bolivia and I was watching this woman make coffee, and it occurred to me that she was making hot coffee from cold brew. And we got to remember, this is 2008, so only a couple people really know, and that's Northerners, know about cold brew, right? Some of your Southern listeners will go, not true, right? But anyway, the Northern, and they weren't thinking in terms of wow and are ready to drink, right? So I immediately go nuts, and I start building a bottling line in the backside of our warehouse, because I'm going to make cold brew and go. And we launch it, Whole Foods takes it, and then cold brew kind of takes off, right? So it's like, wow, suddenly like other companies are doing it, it's a thing. And I realized, wait, there's a problem here, because there's really no differentiation. I mean, it's just like, hey man, let's soak grounds in cold coffee, and everyone has their technique, filter it off, put it in a bottle and sell it. So you're going to think, man, there's going to be a billion companies going to want to do that. So I started looking at the Frappuccino, and I go and I visit their plant, and it's amazing what I see. First, there's no milk, and you're like, wait a minute, it's all powdered milk? It's like, yeah. And then they're like, where are the roasteries? And no, it's all in it. It's instant coffee, isn't it? Yeah, and it's just instant coffee, powdered milk, sugar, some chemicals, some hot water. And I'm like, I'm sure I can do better than this, right? So that was the idea. So I started really thinking about cold lattes, and it occurred to me that I had missed like this giant thing that was in my field of vision and never noticed it before, which was in 1982, when you came to the cafe, one of the cafes, we would blow your mind. We blew your mind because we were texturizing milk. We were putting bubbles in milk. And at that time, that was like the first year it was being done outside of like really like maybe Providence, Rhode Island, in some Italian restaurant, right? I mean, it was like, it wasn't done. And people loved the foam. And I realized right then that I was more in the foam business than I was in the coffee business, because realistically, this line you couldn't have explained. If we were doing cafe au lait, these people wouldn't be here, right? Hot milk and hot coffee, oh, whatever, kind of boring, right? You do that at home, but the foam. And then when we started doing cold, which was in like the latter part of 1990s, we just dropped the foam. We're like, whatever, we don't fucking use the foam anymore. And you're like, wait a minute. So it's like, no, it's not a latte anymore. Then it's just you mean an iced Olay. Okay, that's what that is, but it's not a latte. So I thought, well, how can you make the foam come back? And I realized, wait a minute, that's what a latte is, cold or hot. It's 3 ingredients: concentrated coffee, milk, and foam, or vapor. That third vapor piece is missing. Water vapor when it's hot. What's the vapor if it's cold? And so then 9 straight days in my lab, I came out with a draft latte. I said, this is the one. This is how you do it. So it's just returning vapor back into the latte mix. And then it just got really weird from there. Then it just got weird. You have to put like 10 podcasts on it, but it's nuts. Yeah. It's just like a bucking bronco after that one.
Yeah. So you guys brought these. You have the draft latte in the cafes, right? And you also at the same time launched the canned, to sell in stores.
Yeah, the can. Well, it's funny because I first invented it in the can because that's why it was meant to be the David against the Goliath and the Frappuccino. And I was like, But then once I got in the can, I went, well, I can do this in a frickin' keg. It's like now I know how to do this, right? So if they both started at the same time, the on tap hit the cafes a year before I could get that factory built and all that stuff. I mean, now you're talking about a whole new thing, right? FDA regulations, heat penetrations, shelf life stabilities and all that, and $15 million in the plant and all the people. And it's like to really kick off a product like that, you're just building a new planet. And so by the time that one can comes out, we'd served a couple over the bar, and then you cross your fingers. It could have gone really bad if I'd have been wrong.
But you were right.
Yeah, we're doing okay. Yeah, we do. Yeah, like hundreds of thousands of cases a week. But there's, I think, a lot of people used to say to me, like I used to hear this, like, I'm a serial entrepreneur. And I go, so you're in breakfast food? And they go, no, I'm a serial entrepreneur. And I go, what does that mean? That means you just keep changing? It's like, yeah. I said, yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur too, but within the same company. I just keep adding and keep evolving and keep inventing and keep going, right? Within the same confines, right? Which is that thing. And sometimes that requires betting everything you've already done. And those are the hard ones. I watched Musk do it like every 3 months. I'm like, dude, like you're putting it out on the line again. Quit it. I can't sleep because of the shit you're doing. My stomach is killing me. Like, quit it. Like there are times, those are the hard times because you got a sure deal, bro. You've made a company, it's worth a couple $100 million. You've got a sure deal. You're done. I mean, and you're not really that guy that really cares all that much about the bottom line anyway. It's about something else. Why don't you just play it safe and go home? Or you can invent something brand new. You can change the way America interacts with this coffee. And you can be on 72% of all store shelves across the United States in 3 years. It is down to 3 people in the ring. It's Coke, Pepsi, and me. And you go, oof, that's nice. But to make that jump, yeah, you got to bet it up.
Yeah. So you're in 72% of stores across America?
Yeah. IRIs it's a system like a Nielsen report, right? That looks at, all of the numbers that are being rung through stores in America. You buy your IRIs. And, when La Colombe was just not even, the IRIs were like, who? How do you say that? La Colombe?
Yeah. Colombe.
And then we hit the 50th, and now it goes literally Coke, Pepsi, La Colombe.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Just two good dudes opened up a cafe with some traveler's checks in 19th and Walnut at the lowest point of Philadelphia's history. And you go, wow, that's pretty good. But like I said, the first chore is grinding it out in poverty to get up off the ground. And then there's going to be a time in your career that you're going to be asked to bet it all. That's the worst. You're not going to get enough. You're not going to get a lot of sleep during that phase. Let me just tell you.
I guess it was worth it, though.
Yeah, I think so. I think that La Colombe wouldn't have survived COVID. I think that right now it's a safety. We come cruising into COVID. We have 30 cafes, right? We have 5,000 hospitality clients in the roast space. We have our e-com platform. Then you have the the CPG, we call it, right? It's the grocery. Like 4 jet engines firing. One, the e-com one is a small one, but you get 2 of those blown out, man. The altitude shift is just insane. We were burning through $2 to $3 million a week, just up the backside, man. Just, oh my God. And you're just feeling the freaking altitudes just peeling away. And the only thing that was able to stop us from hitting the ground, and like roasters, companies like ourselves, was that power from the RTD that can. Brought us back into motion, leveled us out, and is allowing us to climb back out of this hole. We would have died without it. My entire life work would have been lost.
Wow.
For sure.
So what? Yeah. So how's it looking, coming out of this? Hopefully, we're going to be coming out of COVID soon. What's the outlook?
Well, I mean, I think, the first thing is it was an incredible opportunity for me and JP to demonstrate that we're prepared to walk the talk, that we're going to live our principles. We didn't fire anybody. We didn't go crazy. We didn't do anything like that. We wanted to make sure that we could level this out and climb back out of this dive while not throwing people out of the airplane, right, without parachutes. We didn't want that. I'm overtly, concerned about the condition of the economy. When we do recover, it's not going to be leaning towards those who have lost their jobs. So it's like, no, I can't throw my people out into that mess. So there is that. So culturally, we've always been really strong company culturally, but right now it's dense like a freaking black star. I mean, we are compressing on each other in a really beautiful way. So for that, I'm saying, coming out now, what I know is that after a storm, there's going to be a lot of shit on the beach. There's a lot of wreckage. We all know that. And I don't want to be an animal of prey, but that means opportunities for lots of people as long as you survive it and we get through to the other side. So I look at that. And we're now, the cafes are kind of eking by. They're almost at break even now. The hospitality should be at break even in about a month. So I think that we're at a point where we can start mending ourselves. But now we kind of went in with the tiny right arm, but just coming out with this beast on the draft latte to see if we can't kind of match the other ones to it. So I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is, what are you going to do? Acid rains on all of us. It hurts very badly to everybody. There's so many dead people, and I don't see anyone mourning. I don't see anyone RIPing on their windows. I don't see it. There's just like quietly, people are just quietly dying. And I think that what that means is it's going to hit us emotionally. No words of silence for all the dead people. Not yet. So it means that we're in denial, man. I've been in and out of war zones in my life, and I know what that's like when you get home and that's when you see it. That's when the first time you see it. And I think that there's just this place where we're guarding our hearts so much that we're not giving those moments of silence, and they're going to come. So we've got some challenges. Am I giving the dismal old man story here? Is that what I'm doing?
No, it's good.
I'm just free flowing in my head of what I think.
Yeah. Would you say that this has been like one of the biggest challenges of your career?
I think I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that. This is one of my biggest surprises.
Okay.
I felt like, when I realized it was in February, and I sat down with my COO and my partner, president of the company, JP, and I said, this is coming, right? And like, they're like, you're such a liberal. You're watching all that liberal shit again, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, I am a liberal. But anyway, no, I believe that, I've seen virus spread, and I'm concerned that this is going to skip the water and it's going to get bad, right? And I said, so let's lay down the ground rules. And the first thing I said was, one, all of this is being recorded. All of this, everything you say, everything you do, however we act, it's all being recorded. Keep that in mind, okay? Because we're going to attack this. There's going to be a lot of scared people, and they're going to be analyzing every one of your ticks, so this is going to be recorded, right? That was a big one, and then it was like, we're not just going to survive this. Mm-mm. We're going to twist this around. We're going to twist this around to benefit somehow. We're going to learn from it, or we're going to get something from it morally, intellectually. But the idea is we're not just going to get beat up. And yeah, it seems like those two things, we've lived by them pretty well.
Yeah. So how about on the opposite end of the spectrum, success-wise, besides, obviously taking the bet on the draft latte and evolving it to what it is today, what has been, one of your greatest successes in life or business, or both?
I had this other life that I do, which is exploration and ultra long distance stuff.
Yeah, trekking across Antarctica or something, right?
Yeah, that was a big one because everyone else has pretty much died doing that, and you can't do it in less than 40 days, and it could never be done alone, and there were all these restrictions, and I did. It wasn't a walk in the park. That's certainly true. But, it's probably 40 days of that in there that I'll never forget. And I think it's just important, even though it's just to me, that, I was able to reach out and I touched the South Pole, and I got there under my own strength.
in world record time.
In world record time. First American. And a first is important, in exploration. It's like the first to go up Everest. It's like dumb. I mean, now it's like your number, 19,000 and, it feels very touristy. But be the first to do something, it's something that is kind of a dream come true. So I was the first American to do that, first man to do it from the edge of Antarctica to the South Pole under his own strength. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think kids, man, you can't talk an old guy like me. I mean, kids are just, come on. I got 4 of them, and they're just stunning people. They're just, yeah. And, my wife and I were adopted parents. So this goes to show you that a good, genetic shakeup is a good thing once in a while because like, oh my God, they're so much better than me. All of them. Yeah. I adore them. And it's just a big victory, be the privileged father of these children. That's
awesome. And how about your community involvement? I know you're really charitable, and I know there's probably some organizations that you're really passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I always kind of, like I said, I'm a Scots person, and we I don't know if like even my grandpa he didn't like the word charity. What he liked is decency. And there's a concept of being a decent neighbor that is so much wider than being charitable, right? Because it means that you're emotionally connected. It means that you're assuming a sense of responsibility here too, and you're assisting, but you're engaging. So that's the picture that I look at, right? And you say, okay, I myself, and then this thing that I created that's bigger than me. I'm gonna look at this damn thing. It's quite amazing. We would like to exercise our responsibilities as good neighbors. It sounds really, really freaking rural, but it's beautiful. And so that's what we do, and we try to prioritize. And that happens at the farms, the different farms that we do too. And typically it's water projects and school projects on farms, right? And, locally it's the same deal. It's typically the same thing. It's children, and it's schooling, and it's parents in need. There you go. It's pretty much that. And then you'll see me riffing into stuff, like that's just something happens. We don't like it. And, a lot of the people in the company have say. I have what we call an equity council, and we meet once in a while, and they say, Todd, this has got to happen. Would you write a check for this? And I'm like, okay, yeah, do that. It's like, because it makes sense, right? It makes sense for communities.
And speaking of that, so, a lot of people here in my town in Wilkes-Barre may know you, may not, but a lot of people listening are going to make the connection with what I'm about to say. Is you have a connection to this area here, a town over from me. There was a school district, the Wyoming Valley School District. You're smiling. I know where I'm going with this. And about a year and a half ago, there was that $22,000 school lunch debt, and you kind of stepped in and really helped out. How did that happen, and why did you do it?
Well, it didn't hit my radar, I think, until folks were threatened, and, you just don't threaten a mom or dad's, about taking their children. I mean, this is a threat. This is not acceptable. You can threaten to punch me in the teeth. Okay. But like, don't be screaming at me, you're going to take my kids away. I mean, I don't care who you are. And that hits my radar. Now, like I said, in my background, I've been in and out of foster. I know those words mean something to me. Right. And so when you hear that threat, yeah, you get your spices get flowing. Right. So my spices got flowing a little bit. So I said, well, you know what? I want this to go away. I don't want the kids to hear it. I don't want the parents. I don't want any of this. This is bullshit. Sorry. And so I just wrote a check, and they said, no, we don't want the money. It's not about the money, Todd. They said, it's not about the money. Thank you for the 22 grand, but it's not about the money. See, what they want to make a point. And that made it worse. So I'm like, what do you mean you want to make a point? You want to make a point by threatening a man or a woman that you're going to take their kid away because you couldn't afford the $8 for their sloppy Joe, It's just like, no. Okay, now this feels like bullyism. This feels like, and they're saying this has shit to do with politics. Now, this is not a political thing. This is like one party, threatening another party. And I'm like, hey, especially a party of authority, right? I tend to react to that more than any of it. And I just didn't like it. And I said, well, so all I did was something very simple, as I wrote on my phone a little op-ed for the local newspaper. And you remember, I just thought, how bad could this be? It's just like the little paper, and some people are going to read it and say, hey, he's right, take his money. This is kind of what I'm thinking. I didn't know it would go all the way to like Europe, and it went like Argentina. It went global, right? That little thing I wrote went global.
It did.
And oh my God, I couldn't answer the phone. It was just like everybody, just every news station you can imagine. And I was like, okay, no, I got to hide, because that's not really what I wanted. I didn't want that to happen. It's like, it was, so I got a call and they said, well, okay, we'll take the money. And I went, great. I said, now the lawyer said, we want to see that you've cleared these bills for these parents. So the cafeteria went to zero. They're receivable. And I felt like we've done something. But what was really interesting is that other areas now, so that school lunch programs are little restaurants. They're profit centers, right? And not only school district profits from it, it's little tiny restaurants. So they could make $250,000 a year serving your kid frickin' tater tots, right? But you owe them $8. They're going to come repo your car, right? Okay, now this is like, no, this is not cool, right? First of all, should you be profiting from my kid? I don't think you should profit from my kid. I think that we should break even here. And you're profiting from the money I'm getting. I'm sending my kid to your school. You nourish him, but don't you make out like a bandit, right? If you want to make profit, start a coffee roasting company, right? It's like, just go somewhere else, right? Just don't. So I feel like it's kind of a gouge deal at the same time. So it put a lot of doubt in a lot of different townships and areas along the state who have now rewritten a lot of their regulations because of that incident, because they're all now nervous that Todd's on the hunt, right?
Yeah, you're watching.
Yeah.
Don't make him write another op-ed.
I know. I swear to God, I would never normally go that brutal, but it came off like the biggest conspiracy in the world. And I didn't want that to happen. I just wanted local pressure on the school, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Because let's back up a second. If you gave the community the opportunity to look at that information and to vote, I know how they would vote. They would say, no, this is silly. We know what being made. We can't like pull these kids and put them in foster care because they owe $22 for some pasta, right? It's like, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, that cost them, what, 30 cents?
I know. I just can't think of anyone who would agree with that outside that board. Yeah. So, I apologize for starting shit in your neighborhoods.
No, it's all good. I mean, ultimately, you did a good thing, and it's, I want to ask you about it because I remember seeing it in the news, like a little over a year ago, and like I said, I've been a fan of the coffee brand, and for a number of years now. When I saw your name pop up, I immediately obviously recognized it, and I was like, holy shit!
Here he goes again.
No, so that was cool. So, so kind of changing gears a little bit, like how can, so for people that don't, live near a cafe, how can someone buy La Colombe product? Oh, goodness. So what do you guys got out there? Do you have, we have Wegmans, Target, Walmart, all of them, right? Go to any Wegmans. So I shouldn't be able to say that, but pretty much if you get anything that says La Colombe on it or the really good stuff that says Wegmans, I know the guy who's behind all that. And then I would go look at the RTD, the ready to drink, that they're all over the place there. I tell you the one I like there's the bigger bottle I do that's in the juice section of the bigger. Like the cold brew? Cold brew. That's the bomb. Yeah. Like if you've never had cold brew before and you just buy one, don't go crazy, and particularly if you like milk in it, just go and make yourself a coffee in the morning with that. Even if you're used to hot coffee, just try it one time and you're going to go, oh my God, listen, I just turned 57
And I don't drink hot coffee much anymore.
Neither do I.
I just don't. I know it's just supposed to be the millennials that do that, which I think you may be, or the Gen Zs, but not old farts like me, right? No, it's just so much better.
It is.
It's just that you get the little transition, and now you don't have to brew coffee. And I have like a professional coffee bar set up at home. And I mean, I still make it, but I enjoy the cold better now.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I drink cold all year round. I don't care what the temperature is outside.
I know. People have said to me, "Goes, you drink cold, and when I go, why? You stop drinking beer in the winter? You don't. You stop drinking soda or like cold juice? No, you drink a lot of cold stuff, even when it's cold, right? The like iced tea, you can drink that all year round too, right?
Yeah. What's the difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of to wrap it up here, how can listeners learn more about you? You have a website, toddcarmichael.com. La Colombe.
Oh, first, I don't know why anyone wanted to know more.
I think we only scratched the surface in this podcast,
Well, I did a TV series for 3 years, right? Did we talk? Yeah. We didn't talk about that. And
no, we didn't.
All those episodes are out there. Then there was a movie made about when I walked across Antarctica for that.
Oh, yeah. Where's that documentary at?
I don't know. National Geographic bought it, right? And they played it globally. And they're still playing it I get emails from suddenly like Bahrain. It's like, okay, they're almost through, I guess, the world. And then when they are done with that, they'll post it up. I think there's sections like kicking around. And then I guess got to finish up all this work and this stuff I'm doing so I can write a book. And when I do that, I'll come back on the show.
All right.
Yeah. I'll pitch that.
All right. Yeah. When you finish that book, let's reconnect and we'll do a part 2.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in.
All right, cool.
I'm one of my favorite subjects.
Yeah. And how about on social media? Where are you most active that people might be able to engage with you?
Oh yeah. So I quit all that, stuff like Facebook, Twitter. I can't handle I don't mind people with different opinions than me. I'm fine with that. That's life, right? It's great. But you go on this we're just kicking each other a new one. And I'm like, I don't want to be kicked a new one, and I don't want to kick anyone a new one. So I dropped off Twitter and Facebook. I can't handle. Maybe one day people will sober up again and I can go back on. So right? I mean,
yeah.
Why does everything have to be so angry? I'm just trying to give you a picture of my barbecue. Come on, chill out, right? It's like,
yeah.
I don't care wherever you reside on the spectrum. You don't ever need to kick anyone's teeth in. Just chill. Look at the guy's grill. Move on. Okay. So,
yeah.
So I go to Instagram where I don't have to read all that shit, right? So there's just Todd Carmichael on Instagram, and so I put stuff. It's mostly family stuff.
It's mostly barbecues and your kids and.
Yeah, dude, isn't that what it's? I just see it. That's what you don't see many pictures of me like on yachts, like. In a muscular pose. I'm not doing that, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm at the hockey rink watching my kid play hockey and I'm taking a picture. I mean, that's...
Yeah, you're like a real person,
Yeah. I mean,
whoever would have thought.
Well, see, yeah, I think a lot of it... I'll talk about that too. I had a couple conversations today. This is extra credit, right?
Uh-huh.
It just seems to me that if you're going to work your whole life to get to a place... And you get to that point where you're now successful. You've kind of achieved some things that you wanted to achieve. Now is the time to be the most human because you deserve it. And I just watch these people who got to the point where they are, and they just turn into these weird people, and they're just completely disconnected with everything around them. Like, listen, piece of salmon on the grill is a beautiful thing, dude. That's where your head should be there.
Right.
And strutting your stuff and, buying Lambos or whatever you're doing, right? Success should be about that. It should be about peace, just happiness, just like a comfort. Like the old days when you worked your ass off on your farm and you got to a place, it got you a rocking chair, man. That's what you're looking for. Just a little chill. Just
to chill out.
Yeah. So that's what I hope to be displaying on the Instagram account. That, I'm not going to be flipping Benjis or doing it like, no.
Is that what they call it? Flipping Benjis?
You know what I'm saying? Whatever social media people do, they all like to show off their weird wealth. Like you're gonna see me as like smoking some fish, man.
Regular
like
dude,
enjoying life. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, hey, I think we'll end it there, and we'll have you on part 2 when you finish that book.
All right, brother.
All right, man. Yeah. So thanks again for joining me, Todd, on the Stacks podcast. La Colombe Coffee, Todd Carmichael. Thanks again.
If you'd like to learn more about the On the Stacks podcast, be sure to search the hashtag On the Stacks on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you next time on the Stacks.